Okay, question 1. You're helping your little brother pick out a Halloween costume. There are 3 costumes that you like, so you want to see which one is your brother's favorite. You first present the Batman and Spider-Man costume. They choose Batman. You then present Batman and Superman. They choose Superman. You then present Superman and Spider-Man. They choose Superman. You have conducted a what? Okay, if you've been studying a while with my videos, if you've used our study pack, this should be a very straightforward question. Hopefully, while I was reading it, you already were coming up with the answer, okay? Preference assessment questions should be very simple, right? What is our rule? If we have one stimulus, okay, at a time, it's a single stimulus. If we're assessing 2 stimuli at a time, it's forced choice. And if we're assessing 3 or more at a time, it's going to be multiple stimulus, right? And in free operant is just free reign of whatever environment you're in, okay? So how many preferences are we assessing at once? Well, you present the Batman and Spider-Man costume. So you're presenting 2 items, 2 stimuli. You then present Batman and Superman, 2 stimuli. You then present Superman and Spider-Man, 2 stimuli. Okay, so we're assessing 2 stimuli at once. We're forcing them to choose. Okay, so this is a what? This is a B, forced choice preference assessment. Okay, also known as a paired stimulus preference assessment. Okay, remember, in our forced choice preference assessment, we're trying to establish a basic hierarchy. Okay, item 1 is their favorite, item 3 is their second favorite, item 2 is their third favorite, and we're doing that by presenting 2 items and forcing them to choose between 2. That's what you're doing in this case. You're presenting 2 costumes and forcing a choice. Skill acquisition plans are essential for helping a client learn something new. Typically, a plan will start by identifying a target, creating a goal, picking a measurement system, taking baseline data, implementing a procedure, and then collecting data. After collecting data, the next step is most likely what? Okay, so this is a question regarding what you're going to be doing next, okay? After you collect data on a skill, on a target skill, okay, what is the next step, right? You've already done everything else. You have a goal, you have baseline data, you have measurement, you have procedures. You've collected your data. Now what do? A, create a new goal. Okay, maybe, but how do we know if we need a new goal or not? How are we going to know if we've hit our previous goal? Okay, we have the data. What do we need to do with that data, right? We can't just create a new goal yet. What haven't we done? Same thing with B, pick a new target skill to address. How do we know we need a new target skill, right? Maybe this old skill still needs work. We're not sure until what? Until C, we adjust the current plan based on data, okay? Meaning we evaluate the data, we analyze the data, we look at the data, okay? And then we adjust based on that data. That data is going to tell us if our target was hit, okay? If our skill was mastered, if we need to adjust our procedure, okay? But we're not going to know that until we look at that current data, okay, and make decisions. So C is very good. Let's look at D. Continue implementing the current plan with no change. Again, we don't know. A, B, and D are all possibilities, okay? But before we can do any of those, before we can pick a new goal, we can master a skill, continue implementing, we have to adjust based on the data we just collected. You have to analyze the data, okay? Data is no good if we don't analyze it. So the next step after collecting the data is you look at that data and you adjust based on what you see and what that data tells you. This continuous measurement is useful in certain situations, but can sometimes underestimate or overestimate behavior. Which of the following measurement choices underestimates behavior? All right, so kind of a tricky question, okay? It's going a little deeper than surface level here, right? Let's look at this question though and get some hints, right? So we know we're looking at some sort of discontinuous measurement, okay? So we can immediately eliminate 2 of our answer choices, B and D. Latency is continuous measurement. Rate is continuous measurement, okay? Neither of those should underestimate or overestimate. Those should give us clear pictures of the data, right? Because we're continuously recording using those two. They're not discontinuous measurement procedures. So that leaves us with A and C, which are our discontinuous measurement. So we need to identify whether partial interval recording underestimates behavior or whole interval recording underestimates behavior. Now let's think about it. What does underestimate mean, right? It means it's going to provide you with a number that is less than the actual number, right? So it's going to tell us the behavior is actually occurring less than it actually is, okay? So is that going to be partial or whole? Well, think about how partial interval is taken, right? Partial interval, if we have 15-second intervals, if the behavior occurs at all during the interval, we record it, okay? So if the behavior occurs for 1 second in our 15-second interval, it's a response. So if we have 10 intervals, the behavior occurs for 1 second each interval. The behavior only occurred for 10 seconds, but we have 100% response rate, right? So partial is actually going to overestimate behavior. Whole interval is going to be the opposite. If we have a 15-second interval, that behavior has to occur all 15 seconds, okay? If that behavior occurs 14 out of 15 seconds, we're not going to record a response. So whole interval is going to, a lot of times, underestimate that behavior, right? It might not give us a clear picture of how often that behavior is occurring, especially if the client or the student or whoever figures out the recording system, okay, and chooses to engage for only some of the interval, not the whole interval, right? That's going to underestimate, it's going to skew your data, okay? One of the downfalls of discontinuous measurement is this issue right here. All right, RBTs are required to record session notes blank. Easy question, like we talk about. A lot of questions on the exam should be easy. They should be questions you answer fairly quickly, okay? You will want to answer them fairly quickly because you want time for the harder questions. If you are prepared, if you have studied, you will be able to answer a lot of these questions in 15, 20 seconds max. And this is a 10, 15-second question. So how often are RBTs required to record session notes? Daily, weekly, monthly, every other week? Well, you should record session notes every single time you have a session. So the best answer here is going to be daily, okay? Because if you're an RBT, typically you're going to work more than once a week, okay? So if you want to get very precise, you should record session notes after every session. However, the best answer here is daily. And that's a key on the RBT exam is you want the best answer, okay? Providing what information they give you and providing the answer choices, you want the best answer. Weekly is not the best answer. Monthly is not the best answer. Every other week is not the best answer. Daily is our best answer in this scenario. Michael just got home from playing basketball with his friends. It was hot outside and Michael was thirsty. Once inside, he immediately opens the refrigerator, spots a Gatorade, and drinks half the bottle. The Gatorade serves as a blank for quenching Michael's thirst. All right, so we have a behavior question, okay? We're looking for whatever the Gatorade served as, right? So if you look at our answer choices, is it going to be an MO, an SD, a prompt, or a consequence? So let's go back to where the Gatorade comes into play, okay? It says once inside, Michael opens the refrigerator, spots a Gatorade, and drinks half the bottle, okay? So once he spots the Gatorade, what does he do? He drinks the half the bottle, okay? As a result of drinking half the bottle, what happens to Michael's thirst? Well, it's probably quenched, okay? So does that Gatorade serve as an MO? Did that Gatorade make quenching Michael's thirst more valuable? Did it make Michael want to quench his thirst? No, Michael already had the motivation, okay? Because he had just played basketball and he's thirsty, okay? The Gatorade doesn't do anything for the motivation, right? The motivation's already there. The value of liquid, okay, to quench thirst is already high. That's what the MO does. It alters the value. It makes you want something or not want something. Michael already wants to drink. He just needs something to drink, right? So when he spots the Gatorade, what does the Gatorade do? The Gatorade signals reinforcement is now available. Reinforcement, of course, is quenching thirst, okay? So the Gatorade says, okay, now you're able to quench your thirst, right? Not until Michael sees the Gatorade is there an SD. The SD is a signal that reinforcement or punishment is available, okay? So even opening the refrigerator is not the SD, because not until he sees the actual Gatorade is it available. So the Gatorade is the SD, okay? Signaling quenching Michael's thirst is available. It's not the prompt. The prompt comes after the SD. And of course, the consequence comes after drinking the bottle. Drinking half the bottle is the behavior in this situation. So if we looked at it as ABC, the antecedent is spotting the Gatorade. The behavior is drinking the Gatorade. The consequence is Michael's thirst is quenched. Michael's reinforced. The Gatorade signals the reinforcement is available. Okay, MOs and SDs can be tricky, especially if you just started studying, right? Review this question until you understand what we're talking about, all right? Understand the difference between an MO and an SD. An MO comes before an SD. An MO makes you want or not want something. An SD signals that something is available. During your 2 sessions this week, you observe your client engaging in hand flapping. This behavior is not in the treatment plan, and it is the first time you have seen it. As the RBT, what should you do? Okay, very common. This is going to be part of your job, reporting things that occur during your session that may not be in your treatment plan or may be new, okay? New behaviors, of course, are not uncommon at all, right? In this case, hand flapping is that new behavior. First time you've seen it, not in your treatment plan, don't know how to react to it. What are you going to do? A, write a behavior plan for hand flapping. Is writing the behavior plan your job description? Is it your role? No, right? You might assist in behavior plan writing. You might assist in it, right? But you're not going to be writing hand flapping behavior plans, especially having only seen it for the first time. A is out. B, report it to your client's parents. Continue implementing the current treatment plan. Okay, this isn't terrible, right? You might tell the client's parents and you might ask them questions. Have you seen it before? Blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to continue implementing your plan. B isn't bad, okay? But remember, what is our rule? Read all of our answer choices to make sure we have the best answer, okay? So C says, say nothing and wait for your next supervision meeting to discuss with your supervisor. No, okay? Big no-no is waiting around for your supervision meetings to discuss your cases. If something is going on with your case, you need to reach out in a timely manner, okay? Remember our task list, communicate with your supervisors in timely manners, okay? Waiting around for supervision meetings is not timely, okay? So that leaves us with D, contact your supervisor in a timely manner and ask how to proceed. Bingo, right? This is way better than saying nothing. It's better than reporting it to your client's parents and just continue implementing, okay? Because now we can actually address it. If you just report it to the client's parents, we can't do anything about it. We can't address it. Your supervisor should be your first go-to, okay? Even if you are discussing with the parents, the supervisor has to know in a timely manner because they're going to be the ones to tell you how you should proceed. How should we handle this behavior? So again, when in doubt, contact a supervisor in any given situation, okay? Questions, concerns, comments, reach out in a timely manner, ask how to proceed. Bryn has difficulty expressing her wants and needs. Bryn's mom knows that Bryn runs to grab her dolls whenever she gets home from school. Today, Bryn's mom places the dolls out of reach and waits for Bryn to say, I want my dolls. Before handing her the dolls, which of the following best describes this intervention? All right. What do you think Bryn's mom is trying to target? Okay, based on this information. Well, the first sentence says Bryn has difficulty expressing her wants and needs. What do you think that means? Well, Bryn's mom is probably trying to target her communication, right? She is setting up situations where Bryn has to say, I want my dolls, and only then will she receive reinforcement. Bryn's mom is trying to work on this communication, okay? So, which of the following best describes this intervention? A task analysis. Is Bryn's mom breaking down a complex task into steps? No. So it can't be a task analysis, right? A task analysis is taking a complex skill and making it into steps. Not what we're doing here. Okay, we're simply setting up this situation where Bryn has to ask for a doll. So are we working on functional communication? Absolutely, right? Bryn's mom is engaging in functional communication training. She needs Bryn to express her wants and needs. She is now setting up contrived scenarios where she can reinforce Bryn for using her words. Okay. B is great. Remember, read all of your answer choices. C, tact training. What is tacting? Tacting is labeling. Are we teaching Bryn to label? No, we're teaching Bryn to request. We're teaching her to demand. Okay. And then D, extinction. We are not withholding reinforcement from previously reinforced behavior. We're trying to reinforce a behavior, right? We're trying to reinforce communication. So, which of the following best describes this intervention? That would be B, functional communication training. Mikey is the star running back on his high school football team. In the first quarter of their game tonight, Mikey fumbled the football and the other team recovered the ball. Mikey's coach yelled at him for 2 straight minutes. Later in the game, Mikey fumbled it again. Based on this information, Mikey's coach's yelling functioned as what? All right, this is a good positive, negative punishment reinforcement question. Doesn't matter if you don't know anything about football. Doesn't matter if you don't know what fumbled is. Doesn't matter, right? Every reinforcement punishment question, all we're looking at is how the behavior is changed or affected. If the behavior increases, it's reinforcement. If the behavior decreases, it's punishment. Okay. The behavior maintains, it's reinforcement. Positive, negative. If we add something, it's positive. If we take something away, it's negative. Okay. All we need to know. So, what are we looking at? We're looking at Mikey's coach's yelling. When did Mikey's coach's yelling occur? Mikey's coach's yelling occurred after Mikey fumbled the football. Okay. So, Mikey's coach is adding the yelling, right? The stimulus is being added to the environment. So we know it's positive. Okay. That's the first step. Now, what happened to the behavior? Mikey fumbled the football once. Mikey's coach yelled. What did Mikey do? Mikey fumbled again. Okay. So it's not punishment because Mikey's behavior continued, right? It didn't decrease. It can't be punishment. It has to be what? It has to be reinforcement. Mikey's coach yelling was added, so it's positive. Mikey's behavior continued, reinforcement. Great example of we cannot go by traditional views on what we consider punishment and reinforcement. Okay. Reprimanding isn't always considered a punishment. All we're worried about is what happens to the behavior as a result of the consequence. And that's what you should be focused on. If you focus on that, you'll never miss one of these questions. Okay. Don't miss these questions. You can do these questions very easily. Okay. Our SDMO questions, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment questions. Really, really simple. Don't miss these. Okay. When explaining ABA concepts to parents and guardians, it is important that you blank. All right. So some questions you'll be able to figure them out without reading the answer choices. This one, a little vague, so we're going to have to go right to the answer choices and try to answer it using that, right? So you're explaining ABA concepts to parents and guardians. What do you need to do? A, use technical language and jargon. Should you speak in very complex, complicated technical language to parents? No, they don't know what you know. They don't know what we know. You should not be using a lot of jargon and technical language, in an attempt to make yourself sound smart or whatever the reason. Okay, parents, don't know what we know, okay? If you start using all this language they don't understand, at best, they're going to start tuning you out. At worst, they're going to get offended. Okay, so avoid technical language and jargon. B, only speak to parents when your supervisors are present. No, you should be building rapport with parents. Sometimes you have to explain stuff to parents, okay? So B is way too strong, way too harsh, right? C, explain concepts using non-technical language. Yes, right? We want to explain them in basic language. So if you're trying to explain reinforcement, okay, instead of explaining well, reinforcement increases future frequency of behavior, you might say, when Sally asks for an apple, you give her the apple, her apple asking behavior might go up in the future, okay? You can put them in terms they're going to understand. So if you're explaining concepts, you must use non-technical language. And then D, provide weekly quizzes to parents. Not necessary, okay? If you're doing some parent training, maybe, but definitely not necessary. C is our answer. When explaining ABA concepts, use non-technical language. If you wanted to transfer control from a prompt to the desired SD, which of the following should you not do? Okay, this is a not question. Be very careful. Always read your questions carefully. Look for those nots and accepts. Additionally, this is like stimulus transfer control, right? We need to go from a prompt to our SD. What do we need to do? Or what do we need to not do? A, use physical prompts over gestural prompts. What's the problem with using physical prompts over gestural prompts? Well, if you're not going to fade the prompts, okay, physical prompts are the most intrusive, all right? That's going to be the hardest to get rid of. It's going to be very difficult for our desired SD to evoke the behavior when our client knows that you're going to physically prompt them, okay? So A looks pretty bad. It looks like something we should not do, okay? Now be very careful. Sometimes you're going to use physical prompts over gestural prompts, but you're missing the key phrase of fading it out, okay? Because in this scenario, we want to transfer control, okay? We're not trying to teach a skill. We're trying to transfer control from the prompt. A, we need to have some sort of fading language, and we don't, okay? So A doesn't look good. B, provide physical prompts, but fade, there we go, fade the prompt as soon as possible. Yes, okay? That's why B is better than A, because we're actually fading the prompt. C, implement the most prompting at the start of teaching, and then fade to less prompting as soon as possible. Again, great. We're fading, we're going down the prompt hierarchy, okay? Less and less prompts. Finally, D, reinforce the behavior when it occurs in the presence of the desired SD. Absolutely. If you want the SD to evoke that behavior, you need to reinforce the behavior in the presence of the SD. So if you want to transfer control from a prompt to an SD, which of the following should you not do? A, use physical prompts over gestural prompts and not fade. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. Check out all our study materials at our website, rbtexamreview.com. Please send me any questions or comments you have. Continue studying hard, and I will see you soon.